So I've gone ahead and taken all the brake lines off. And I'm gonna, I took them off without messing up the factory bends so that I can duplicate them with new brake lines. And I like to go, I'm gonna go ahead and make them all up before I put them in. And I'm gonna try to get all the bends as close as possible. And so that means I've got to go ahead and cut them to length. So I trace along the line with the string, keeping it as tight to the bends as possible. Add about 1/4 of an inch for the flare. So now this string should be as long as this line. So I can just measure the string. Make sure it's nice and straight. $55 1/4. Double check. 55 1/4. Stainless steel is not easy to cut, not easy to bend, and extremely difficult to flare. Want to break that burr. I did put a little bit of oil on the end of this line. I recommend you lubricate it. Got the fitting on already. So here's the lines all made up. There's the this one right here goes over the differential on the rear axle. Goes to a junction block on that side. This one goes from the junction block to the power booster. These are the front and rear left sides. This is the one that goes from the junction block under the cross member and over to the right side. And then this one right here goes from the junction block to the rear wheel, the rear axle with a junction block. The new stainless version of this one I've already put on the car, and the stainless version of this one that goes to the rear axle I've already put on the car. They were the most difficult ones to do, so I went ahead and wanted to get those out of the way, so I already installed them. For bending these stainless steel lines, it's not real easy. You can bend them by hand, but the tighter bends you have to be really careful. This looks like a fancy bender, but I really didn't like it. It tended to want to try to kink the line. This one right here is cheaper. I think I got this from Northern Tool. It's cheaper, but you could get a tighter radius, and it seemed to me there was a lot less chance of kinking the line. Nothing worse than getting the line all made up and putting a kink in it, making it useless. I'm also going to put a little bit of alcohol in these brake lines and blow them out with compressed air to make sure that there's no obstructions in the lines and that the lines are clean. So the long 1/4 inch brake line that comes from the front of the car goes back and connects to this rubber brake line that in turn connects to this junction block, which is mounted on the rear axle. And the threads on this are, all three of them look very close to the same, but the flex line can only connect to one because the threads are different. They look about the same, but they're different, and you got to be careful. So you got your 1/4 inch brake line that goes to the right rear wheel, and your 1/4 inch brake line that goes to the left rear wheel, and then you've got your flex line coming from the long 1/4 inch line that's coming from the front. And I remember that this little indentation relief went down, faced the axle. So that's a little something worth noting, that the threads are different, so you got to be careful. Alright, so the rear brake lines are in. You can see the brass junction block. I put that on first and left it on loosely so I could get the lines started. You gotta make sure your flared line goes squarely into the hole, and that your flare nut should start real easy. If there's any resistance at all, you're not square, and you're risking the chance of your flare not seating properly. So you got to be very careful. And I tighten them up extremely tight, but I don't wring them off. I'd rather they leak and I go back and fix them later rather than wring them off. I want them to look good. But anyway, that's that for now. You can see I've still got my gas tank out. Okay, that's it. There's the junction block that goes in the front in the motor compartment. It's attached to the frame rail behind the A-arm, control arm. Right now I've got the line, that's the rear line going to the back, and this is the crossover line that feeds the right hand wheel. And I still have to attach the left wheel, haven't done that yet, and that will be the last one. And that junction block is bolted on loosely right now to help me
get the flare nuts to start in nice and square. I need to be able to move it around a little bit. Any little bit of flexibility helps. So that'll be the last wheel to connect, left front wheel, but there is one more line, and that's the one that goes to the power booster, and then that'll be it. This is the left rear wheel cylinder. Don't forget the crush washer. Did I say rear cylinder? I meant left front cylinder.